Hello guys, welcome to this video. In this video, I am going to explain why, if you are serious about your web development journey, you probably need to learn PHP as soon as you are done with HTML. Don't worry yet about CSS or JavaScript. You can dive straight into PHP just as soon as you finish or you are done with HTML. Why do I say so? I'm going to explain and demonstrate it. So why do I say so? You see, PHP is kind of HTML 2.0. It is an should I say an elder brother to the regular HTML. Sorry for the noises, please. It's the traffic. So the HTML code can be embedded inside a PHP code or a PHP file. In fact, both PHP and HTML can be mixed together to produce good results. So the thing is this. Now let me show you something. You see, this is PHP and this is HTML. They all have the same thing, hello world. But with HTML, as you know, you can only get what's it called? You can only get a static website. You know, it's static. So which means anytime you hit refresh, you always get this same content. While in PHP, though right now you can't because we don't have the code yet. So in PHP, you get what is called, or with PHP, you can make a dynamic website because it's a programming language. It's not a markup language just like HTML. So you can get a dynamic website. What is a dynamic website? It's a website that's at any time you hit the refresh page or anytime the refresh button, or whenever you visit that website, it will give you a different result each time. A good example is YouTube. Whenever you refresh to YouTube, it's always bring out different videos. It's not the same video it brings out in the first time that you bring the second time. So that is what it means. We mean by dynamic, though it's not limited to that anyway. But this is a good example. So in this video, I will demonstrate that. Now, let's go to the code editor. So here we have the index.html. That is the normal HTML file. And here we have index.php. Both has the hello world h1 tag and hello world in it. All right. So that is why you're having this. Okay. So I'm just demonstrating it. All right. So now, how do we add the dynamism? Because this one has no dynamism, it's just static. But this one we have dynamism by the time we finish. So what do we do? Now let us display, a PHP code. This video, first of all, is for those people who are still learning HTML or who are about to finish HTML, or people who are doing CSS and you don't know anything about programming, or you are doing anyway. If you are doing JavaScript, you can also watch the video. So it's for everybody. Now, in programming, we have in computer programming, we have something called variable. Or before then, let me show you what a PHP code, in case you don't know what a PHP code looks like. First of all, the page must be named, the file must be named in .php. It must have a .php extension or a PHP extension, unlike HTML. So inside the PHPs, this is the opening, what's it called? The opening, forgotten what this thing is called. Is it tag or something? Then in between, you press shift, then press question mark twice. Then go to the middle also, then you type PHP. So now we have where we can input our PHP code. Now if we put this inside, let's put it here. I paste it. You see these lines here, these squiggly lines, these curly lines here. It shows that there is an error. Now if I save it, let's see what it will give to us. You see, it says syntax error. All right. Okay. Now what do we do? How do we show this? How do we show this hello world? Okay. What we have to do is, in PHP there is something called echo. There is a keyword called echo. Echo in PHP simply means to display something on the screen. So let's say echo, then um, uh, yes, h1, then the closing tag. All right. Now we go to the middle. Hello world. I should have simply just copied it. Now we will still have the error. All right. We'll still have that error. Okay. Now what do we do? In PHP lingo, there is something called a string. String is just a block of text or just text that can be displayed on the screen. For example, this one now is a string. It's just text. It is called data type. We have data type string, just text. We also have integer, numbers. We also have float. Anyway, when you get into programming, we'll talk about that. So right now, how do we tell PHP that this is a string? Select this, then enclose it in this, for example, single quote. Then let's save it. Sorry, this is now we have this hello world just as we have here. Okay, so this means this is a string. We are telling the PHP to know that yes, this is a string. But even then, I made an error here. As soon as you finish with the line, you must close it. How do you close the line? It's here. Most times it will generate error if you do not close it. Okay, but this time it is forgiven. It is forgiving. PHP has forgiven us. But next time, or when we are doing other things, it will not be so forgiving. Now, you see, there's no dynamism here. We are still displaying the same thing each time we hit a refresh. Okay. The next thing we have to do now, we have something called variable. I don't know if I've mentioned that word earlier, but variable simply means, or in programming, in case you don't know, it's just a container that you put something, a value inside. Whenever you need that value, you simply go to that container and retrieve it back. Very simple. So what do we do now? Okay, let's make a simple variable here. In PHP, you simply hold Shift and number 4 key. It will give you the $sign. Now you press equals in programming. Usually, I program at I think PHP and many other languages. Equals mean to assign. It doesn't mean equals as in mathematics. So this is to assign. But before then, we haven't named the variable. So after pressing the $sign, then you name the variable. You give it any name you want. Usually, you should give it names that you come up with, but there are certain names that you can't give it. For example, these ones here, you don't do that. You don't give it. You don't name your variables any of these because it will cause a problem later. So let's call it variable. So variable is how do I put it? A variable is available. It's an available keyword. It's an available word or an available name. So now we assign it to this string here. So let me cut it and paste it over here. All right, and you see it has generated an error because first of all we didn't close it, but the error is still there because we cannot just say echo. It has to echo something. So let's remove this one. So now this is a valid code. Let's see what we have. We don't have anything because we are not putting anything out. We just put this value inside this variable. Now let's see. I'll put it on the screen. All right. So let's say echo variable. Then let's close it. Let's see what we have. You see, we now have hello world here. Okay. At the end of the day, or at the end of this, we still don't have any sort of how do I put it? Dynamism. There is no dynamism here. So we have to work on that. Okay. First of all, when you go to YouTube and you refresh, you get a different video, or you get different videos, get different links each time. So what they do is that all those videos are stored inside a container called, sorry, I stored inside a container just like this variable. But this time around, we have a special container because this container has only one item in it. But we also have another container or variable that can contain many items in it. It is called array. In PHP, it is called array. In Python programming language, it is called a list. Just as you have a list that you have many items inside, so you pick the one you want. So let us make a list in PHP. So let's say my list assigned to this square brackets, then close it. This is how to make an array or a list in PHP. Okay, so let's make a list. All right, we have a list of fruits. Okay, but this is an empty list, so let's populate it. So now we go to this is just to wrap this, word wrap, to do some word wrap here, so that to see everything at once without doing any side scrolling. So I go to view, word wrap. All right, so we have this fruit list, and inside this fruit list we have a lot of fruits in it. We have mango, apple, avocado, peach, and so forth and so on. All right, so these are all strings separated by commas. You understand? They are all comma separated values. I think it's called CSV, comma separated values inside this list. So inside this array. Now what do we do next? Let's try to display this on the on the HTML on the page in the browser. So let's go back to our friend. The echo keyword echo is a keyword, so you don't use it as a name of a variable. All right, so let's say echo then fruit list. All right, so let's see what we have. Oh, it's generated an error. Yes, because it said array to string conversion. So this is an error. It cannot display all of these things on the screen. So what it's trying to do here is let's illustrate. Let's say you have a basket full of fruits. Okay, different types of fruits: mango, apple, avocado, peach, and so forth and so on. Now you want to eat these fruits. Even if you want to eat all of them, you don't just, what we are trying to do here is to stuff all of them into our mouth at the same time, which is dangerous, it's dangerous, and we're not supposed to do like that. So what we do is simply, after eating one, you pick up the other one. After eating that one, you go to the next. After eating that one, you go to the next. All right, so that is what we will do. We are not going to eat all the fruits at once. Try to swallow them at once. No, don't do that. We still access it, the items here, using what's it called again, square brackets. Now how do we get, okay, let me save it first of all. It says cannot use the square bracket for reading, so which means we're actually trying to do the same thing. So how then do we display these items? We simply, you should understand that in the array has something called an index. Index is just the number that indicates where an item is inside the array. For example, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so forth and so on. So how many items we have here? I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, we have 13 items here. But if you want to refer to them, for example, let's say we refer to 1. Now let's see what we have. We have apple. All right. So we have the second one, but this is 1. Why in the second one? It's simply because in programming languages, the array indexes are 0 based. So we start from 0. We don't start from 1. So to get this mango, we start from 0. So let me refresh. Now this is 0. All right. So now let's change it, for example, to 10. We get tangerine. Now to get this last one, it's supposed to be 13, but because it is 0 based, we have to minus 1, which is 12. See that? We have papaya. All right. So now we are getting a little bit of dynamism inside the in this website, in this page we are creating. But unfortunately, we don't have to be changing it because YouTube doesn't change all of these things manually. It is the computer that does it on its own. So one thing we can do is this. When you use YouTube, when you refresh YouTube, most of the times those videos come randomly. So we're going to use some kind of randomness. So this is kind of a very basic dynamism. Understand, to let you understand how it works or why you should probably learn PHP as soon as you finish HTML, to add dynamism to the website or the web page you're creating. All right. So we are going to make a code that will, whenever you refresh, it will bring a random fruit from one of these fruits here. Okay. So what we have to do is, so we now have this is a new variable I created, which we call random item. Actually, I call it random fruit. But anyway, let's continue. Random item. So this fruit list, this is the fruit list. This is array rand. Array rand is a built-in function. A function is a kind of mini code. You understand? So the people who made PHP, they wrote the code for this array rand to select a random item from a list or from an array. So you use that function, then you supply the name of the list is going to choose an item from. So whenever it chooses that item, it stores it inside this variable called random item. So now let's echo it. Echo random item, then close it. Let me save it. Now let's see what we have. All right. You see, whenever I refresh, it gives you a different item each time. The other time you saw mango appear 3 times or so. It's simply because we only have just a few items here, 13 items here. Imagine you have a million, so it will give you a different thing each time. All right. So that's that anyway. But as you can see in the HTML side, wait, let it load. In the HTML side, you see how bold it is. It's simply because we have here, you see, it is wrapped inside this h1 tags. So how do we do that here? How do we do that here? So it's very simple. Just outside the PHP, where you're going to write the PHP. That is for beginners, because if you're advanced, you don't need to do what I'm doing now. So you simply write, especially with VS Code, and it has Emmet installed. I think it does that by default. So simply type h1, then tab. All right, h1 tab. Now copy this, or should I say you cut it, you put it here. Okay, if you are observant, you understand why there is an error here, because it's an invalid PHP code. So first of all, we select this, then simply press quotes on your keyboard. But no, wait, you press shift and press quote to get double quote. You see, this one is single quote. It's a string. This is double quotes. It's also a string, but it's a bit different from this, because what we are going to do next, if you use this one, it will give you an error. But if you use double quotes, it will work. All right. So let me copy this, or let me cut this one out. Then come to the middle here and paste it. You understand? So we are just simply echoing out this random item, but we are now putting it, or should I say, encasing it inside the h1, the HTML, the regular HTML h1 tags. So let me save it. Let's see what we have. Or we go to the PHP. This is index.html. Now this is the PHP. You see, we now have, it's now bold. All right, because this is encased inside. It is encased inside an h1 tag. All right. So let's see something else. I want to show you something else. While you should probably learn PHP as soon as you're done with HTML, don't be afraid of it. It's at the base, it's basically the same thing. Now let's go to the elements. You go to body. You see, we have just one h1 tag here. All right, which corresponds to this avocado here. Okay. Now, you see, we only have one here, but here in the code editor, we have all of these codes here. Where did they go? That is why it is called a programming language. The programming language does not simply output whatever code you put into it on the screen. It will first of all evaluate it to a single value before it displays it on the screen. Unlike HTML, that whatever you put in, HTML is more or less like garbage in, garbage out. So whatever you put here is what you get on the screen. But in PHP, it's going to get evaluated before it's displayed on the screen. That is why we have only one of these here. Now let me refresh. We have mango, starfruit, so different items each time. So this is real dynamism. Though it is real dynamism, but it's the basic, the most basic, the basic dynamism you can add to a website. All right, because in YouTube or Facebook, it's a bit more complex than this. It does a few other things before it outputs anything on the screen. So now what do we do? What do I do next? Let's see if we can catch it or if we can work on it using CSS. All right. First of all, I have my CSS here linked up. So here is the code. Here is the where we are going to the CSS, the style of CSS. We are going to edit or program the not program. We are going to style the or how give it style anyway. So let's go to body. Then let's work on that, or let's use font size or font family. Sorry, font family. Let me use sans serif. So this is just basic styling. Now let me refresh. So the reason why it's not, let me see. Okay, yeah. The reason why it's not working is because of the browser. The browser has stored some things here. You see, it has stored the previous empty CSS file. So it's now loading from there instead of loading from this style of CSS as a normal HTML page will do. So where is it again? Sources. You see, CSS. So it's loading the empty one. So even if I refresh it, it's still loading from that empty CSS. Even if we have a new one. So what do you do? Simple. Just go to history. Then you go to settings, privacy. Then you go to clear browsing data. Then cached images and files. Make sure it is selected. Then clear data. Then go back. All right, you see it has loaded. It is now loading from the new CSS file. Now let's see other things we can do. Remember, we encased it inside an h1 tag, so we can access the h1 tag using in CSS. So let's say h1 text transform. Text transform, capitalize. Now let's save. Let's see what we have. You see, capitalize means the first letter should be a capital letter. So let's try uppercase. It's now all in uppercase. Now let's change the color. Let's change the color to blue violet. Let's save. All right, you see. So it's just an extension of PHP is just an extension of HTML. All right, it's just HTML with other things. There isn't much difference about there isn't much difference, though it's different, but the difference is not much. It's just that now you have to, how do I put it? You're now on a higher level. You get it? You're now on a higher level. So don't be afraid of PHP. As soon as you're done with HTML, please switch over to PHP. It's not a must that you become proficient in PHP, but at least to get your feet wet before going to any other thing, like let's say CSS or even JavaScript. So thank you so much, guys. I hope I'm gonna see you next time. Goodbye.